Thank you, Mrs. Kraninger, for your appearance here today. I want to speak about accountability. We hear a lot about that with companies, but of course it runs both ways, accountability of our government to our people. The following is a quote from an official at an Arkansas company that has dealt with the CFPB. Consumer compliance is an evergreen process and it should be treated as such. Why does the Bureau not acknowledge issues that are self-identified and self-corrected that fall outside of an exam period and the company be given credit for properly managing risk, instead of being treated in their examinations as not even corrected? In fact, in one instance, the company had made significant progress and the on-site examiners were told not to put anything positive in the report by their supervisors off-site at the CFPB. I have to say I've heard other reports about higher-ups at the CFPB telling rank-and-file examiners to exclude positive information or self-identified problems and corrections. Is it the case that examiners inside the Bureau are being told by supervisors at a higher level not to include positive information in their reviews and their examination reports?
Senator, I am not aware of any specific instances of that, and I can tell you it would be contrary to my direction. We've empowered the frontline examiners to conduct exams in accord with their training, and that would include certainly a factual providing of what they saw and observed, positive or negative, and that is something that I absolutely expect. And if you have specifics on this, and particularly a time frame, I would absolutely like to pursue it.
So it is your direction that your examiners who are out on the front line with companies should include positive information in reports as well?
It is important that they actually report on their own observations and the information that they have observed.
And what is the Bureau's policy on non-systemic, self-identified problems that have also been corrected through self-corrective action?
That is something I am encouraging. Again, this is a massive ecosystem with a lot of players in it. Enforcement should be a last resort, and what we're trying to do is encourage legitimate financial services providers to comply with the law. And in so doing, that means they have a compliance management system that does self-identify issues where they are providing their own corrective action, and that's best for consumers too. They'll get restitution much faster, and we have then again a system that is operating and functioning properly. So that's something I encourage. We are looking at ways to make sure that these policies are codified and clear. I have a new head of supervision, enforcement, and fair lending who just started this week, and so he knows that many of these things are things that I would like to see us pursue in the coming months.
Thank you. I mean, I think there's obviously a big difference between an isolated problem that an institution identifies and corrects versus a systemic problem. Mm-hmm. That's true in a private company, that's true in a government agency. Reminds me of a story that Bob Gates told about the early days of the Obama administration when he was something of a fish out of water, being a holdover from the Bush administration. And they had the usual tensions that exist between White House staff and cabinet secretaries. They had a summit at the White House in the early days to resolve them. And Bob Gates, as kind of the wise man of the group, told the White House staff that they were very important. They understand the president. Someone went back to his campaign for the Senate, but they couldn't implement decisions. So they needed the cabinet officials to be involved in the decision-making process so they get buy-in and implementing it. And he said he heard some laughter behind him. And he turned around to the cabinet officials and he said, I don't know what all of you are laughing about, because today, even though it's a Saturday, someone in your organization somewhere is doing something that you disapprove of that is probably immoral and maybe illegal. The point being that in institutions as large as a cabinet or the CFPB, there's almost always the possibility of someone doing something wrong. And as Bob Gates showed repeatedly in the Department of Defense, you want to try to stop isolated individual cases of wrongdoing and certainly have systems in place to stop systemic wrongdoing. But even more important is when you find those cases of wrongdoing that you take corrective action immediately to stop them. We want to encourage private institutions to do that. We also want the CFPB to have an opportunity to do that for any examiners that are not doing what's consistent with your guidance as well. So.